Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Fluctus channel. U.S. Navy Aviators are among the most well-trained and disciplined aircraft pilots in the world. Their day-to-day operations are essential to the security of not just the United States, but dozens of allied countries. From flight school and training to simulations and drills, these men and women are constantly working to improve their skills so that they can remain competitive against any adversary. A naval aviator's journey begins with flight school. Over the years, the Navy has developed rigorous and comprehensive pilot training that begins with aviators graduating from Officer Candidate School and entering what's known as primary flight training. This phase involves learning the basics of flying and aircraft control through classwork, simulators, and the use of small training planes like the T-6 Texan II. This is followed by intermediate and advanced flight training, which helps familiarize the new pilots with specific aircraft types, carrier-based operations, and aerial combat tactics. There's also the famous Top Gun program, which is officially known as the United States Navy Fighter Weapons School. This prestigious training program for naval aviators focuses on advanced aerial combat tactics and techniques. Top Gun strongly emphasizes aerial combat maneuvering, also known as dogfighting, and advanced strike and interception tactics. The training curriculum covers various aspects of air warfare, including offensive and defensive maneuvers, tactics for engaging multiple adversaries, and electronic warfare techniques. Top Gun candidates are usually selected based on their performance, experience, and recommendations. Still, only aviators who have completed initial training and have operational experience are considered. Strangely enough, one of the most dangerous operations a naval aviator must learn is also the one they will perform most frequently: the arrested aircraft carrier landing. To land safely aboard a carrier flight deck, pilots must fly very low with the aircraft's nose slightly elevated so that the hook at the rear of the fuselage catches the arresting cable. This is what allows the plane to come to a safe stop despite only having several hundred feet to work with. For safety's sake, aviators are first put through field carrier landing practice. This is a routine training exercise designed to simulate the restrictions a pilot will encounter whenever they land on an aircraft carrier, but in a controlled environment where there is far more room for error. Aircraft carrier flight decks are among the busiest and tightest working environments one might see in a military setting. However, the dozens of people involved in the launching and recovery process are all well aware of precisely what they must do at any given time. Indeed, it takes multiple personnel in order to launch a single aircraft. First, you have the Flight Operations Officer, who is responsible for overall flight deck operations and coordination of aircraft launches and recoveries. They also have the on-deck maintenance crew, who help perform pre-flight checks and inspections to ensure the aircraft is in proper working condition. The pilot, meanwhile, is in the cockpit, preparing various systems and checking mission parameters, flight plans, and safety equipment. Other flight deck personnel assist in positioning the aircraft for takeoff, while the catapult operator triggers the actual launch. As detailed as this is, it all happens dozens of times per day. Of course, what goes up must come down. And when it comes to arrested landings, both flight deck crews and pilots require consistent training to keep up with the constant flow of landing aircraft. The arresting area must be adequately maintained at all times, and the cables must be quickly reset between landings. During an arrested landing, the average aircraft will go from around 150 miles per hour to 0 in a very short distance. The arresting gear system is capable of exerting significant forces on the aircraft, ranging from 2 to 3 Gs. All of this takes preparation, as any single factor going wrong could result in disaster. The U.S. Navy is very proud of its training and is not shy about performing demonstrations of its capabilities. In some cases, Allied commanders and other VIPs will be treated to a private air show on board a carrier. This generally consists of various aircraft taking off and landing aboard the carrier, flybys, and maneuvers, which serve as both a show of force and a demonstration of how streamlined the carrier's operations are. Though it may be routine for the men and women working on the carrier itself, seeing these operations up close is often a once-in-a-lifetime experience for visitors. Again, it takes years of training for naval aviators to reach the level of expertise demonstrated here. In many cases, one of the first aircraft these men and women will touch is one that is significantly older than they are. Indeed, the U.S. Navy and Marine Corps have relied on the T-34C Turbo Mentor to train its aviators for decades. This aircraft was first produced in the 1950s, with the turbo version being introduced in 1973. Since then, the T-34 has been used extensively for basic flight training, instrument training, and navigation training. The tandem seating arrangement allows for an instructor and a student pilot to sit one behind the other, facilitating effective instruction and observation. Though the aircraft appears somewhat antiquated, the military has equipped it with modern avionics systems to help students become familiar with the instruments and controls they will encounter in more advanced aircraft. Of course, not all Navy pilots will be operating planes. The Navy and Marines rely extensively on helicopters of all sizes to transport troops, weapons, and cargo from ship to ship and ship to shore. Helicopter pilots must also undergo extensive training using a wider range of vehicles, with one of the most popular being the TH-57 Sea Ranger. The TH-57 is a variant of the Bell 206 Jet Ranger, which is a widely used civilian and military helicopter. Like the T-34, it is an ideal platform for training in various flight operations, including basic flight maneuvers, instrument flying, navigation, and emergency procedures. While emergency procedures are the only form of training aviators hope they never have to use, this is not always the case. Because of the complexity of the aircraft systems and the operations being performed day to day, accidents are always possible. A good example occurred in 2016 when two E-2C Hawkeye pilots saved their aircraft from crashing into the water after an arresting cable snapped during their landing. Despite the extremely low speeds at which they were traveling, the pilots were able to power up within an instant and climb back into the air. These sorts of split-second reaction times happen when you prioritize training to the point where the correct responses become almost automatic. Unfortunately, even the best pilots cannot react fast enough in certain instances. In 2015, an FA-18 Super Hornet crashed in the middle of the ocean. Because of the weapons, fuel, and advanced equipment on board, the Navy had to launch a major salvage mission to recover the aircraft from the bottom of the ocean. This was by no means an easy task and involved several trips to get the entire plane, which had since broken into several pieces. Despite the many challenges involved, the Commander Task Group was able to salvage both the aircraft and all the sensitive information and materials on board. When a crash does occur, the pilots are always the Navy's first priority. Because these incidents often occur in the middle of the ocean, pilots can end up miles away from the aircraft carrier, putting them at significant risk. Helicopters are the best option in these instances, as they can not only patrol vast sections of the ocean, but also move vertically to help recovery pilots who need assistance. Navy helicopter pilots and rescue divers train extensively for these types of scenarios, ensuring they can be ready at a moment's notice if and when a crash occurs. While this may not be part of daily life for Navy pilots, it is essential that the entire carrier crew be ready for anything. That's the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Make sure to subscribe to this channel so you don't miss any of our new content. See you next time.